Welcome to Doc NYC and the special Q&A for the film 40 Years a Prisoner. I'm Tom Powers, the festival's artistic director. I'm pleased to have the film's director, Tommy Oliver, joining us from Los Angeles, along with Mike Africa Jr., joining from Philadelphia. I should say that Tommy is on the 40 under 40 list. That is the list of young talents that Doc NYC creates every year. Also on that list this year is his wife, Cody Elaine Oliver. In addition to this project, they also produce the Black Love series on the OWN network. So Tommy and Mike, thank you very much for being here and for this film.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Tommy, let me start with you. What drew you into this story?
Large in part, Mike. And so I'm a research junkie, and I grew up in Philly, but I didn't really understand much about MOVE, who they were, what happened. And when I started doing research, I realized there was so much more that I didn't know. And I got an intro to MOVE by a friend, and Mike happened to be there. The person I was intro to brought him along, and I learned about Mike's story, that he had been literally born in prison, that his parents were still in prison, and so much of what put his parents in prison, the things they were fighting for in 1978, fighting against police brutality, wrongful incarceration, systemic racism, were the exact same things that we're fighting against today. And it just became something that it didn't even really start out as a documentary. I just started shooting. And I just wanted to figure out what was going on.
And at what point in the story that we've just watched in the film did you come into this?
It's about 3 years ago or so, and it was, Mike can speak for himself, but it was years after he had been working to get his parents out. And it was also 40 or so years, maybe 39 years after the events on August 8th. And that was one of the hardest things to try to piece together exactly what happened, because there was no definitive account of it.
Yeah. Mike, what was it about Tommy that you responded to and allowed him to tell this story?
I think what drew me to Tommy so much was we're very compatible. We're around the same age, two guys from Philadelphia. We kind of have like Tommy has a kind of tumultuous background as well, and so we just kind of connected really, and then just getting more to know him, just watching him and his authenticity and his generosity, and he's just a really good person. And I had a lot of offers to do different things with different people, but just the connection between us. Him and I went to see my parents at the prison together multiple times. We spent a lot of time together just getting to know each other, and we just really just kind of hit it off.
Mike, Tommy talked about the challenge of piecing together what happened in the 1970s, and I wonder how much of it you were also still piecing together during the making of this film.
I've been piecing together what happened on August 8th since I was a 14-year-old kid. And no, I haven't really stopped piecing it together. I mean, I spent a lot of hours that would probably add up to a couple of years digging through transcripts, digging through evidence, police statements, witness statements, trying to find out what happened and how to get my parents out of prison. And you may think that all of that time that you spend, you probably know the whole case, all of the details, but every now and then, you get this other thing that you never heard about that leads you to this other place that brings about another whole level of information that you never even heard of. So it's a very multi-layered incident, and I don't think we'll ever really stop uncovering things.
Tommy, as Mike describes, the process of researching something can be months of waiting, and then suddenly a windfall discovery or someone who comes forward with a piece of information. Can you talk about any of those great reveals in the process of making this that you were really happy to get your hands on a piece of tape or a document or an eyewitness?
We went through so much content, so much archival stuff. So we digitized 10,000 plus pages of court transcripts. We watched literally every piece of archival footage we could find. But I think two of the really cool things, there was a filmmaker, she was a student at the time at Temple, who was shooting a student film in 1978. And wow. Her name is Karen Palmer. And she shot a student film, and the tapes from that project were 1/2-inch tapes that were shot on something called a Portapak. And they were sitting in a closet somewhere for 40 or so years. And we wound up found her and those tapes, and the tapes were in pretty bad shape, and they were moldy and falling apart. And we sort of went through the process of putting them back together and transferred 31 tapes that had not seen the light of day since 1978. And wow. It was some of the footage that's in there. A lot of the black and white footage is that footage. And so the stuff of Janine up on the platform, the stuff of just a lot of it came from that. And so there would have been no way to get that because it did not exist otherwise. Another interesting thing was there was a reporter, Kitty Caparella, who was she worked for the Daily News, and she had reported on MOVE for quite a while, and she had tubs and tubs of content. And so articles that she had written, research that she did. She also had original photos that the ATF had taken of MOVE on May 20th, and she gave it all to us.
Mike, what was your experience of watching this for the first time? And were you watching it with your parents when you did?
I think the first time I watched it, it was a rough cut. And no, my parents weren't there on that first one. But the time when they were there, the second time that I saw a more refined version of it, I mostly watched them. You know, to sit there and just see the expression on their faces, reliving some of those footage that Tommy talked about that had been buried for all those years. Not only was my parents there, but other members of the Move 9 were also there. So I mostly just watched their reactions, and, you know, I watched a lot of tears fall, you know, because not only was it the thing of reminiscing and thinking about all of those things that happened that are, you know, many of the people that they remembered are gone now, right? But also to just like, to see the reaction from them, because Tommy did such a great job telling this story. It was very powerful to see information that we had experienced for so long that had been buried. It wasn't just the footage from Karen Palmer that had been buried, but who we really are had been in large part buried by the media. So to see Tommy's film turn out to be what it was in its authenticity and its a very accurate depiction of who we really are, their reaction to that was just like, you know, not a dry eye in the room type of thing. And, you know, to see everyone pleased by it, that was the best part of it for me.
So right before the Toronto screening, which I very much appreciate the support and vote of confidence. And so
this, just for clarity, this film had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival in September, where I also work as the documentary programmer.
So right before that, I got on the plane for the first time in 6.5 months to go to Philly to screen the movie for MOVE, because I didn't want them to be shocked. I didn't want them to hear about it or read about it without the ability to see it. And so before it premiered in Toronto, I screened it in Philly, and there were 15 of us in a 450 seat theater. And there were two things that really stick out. And I'm not an emotional person, or a particularly emotional person. And as the movie started, the first 5 minutes being there with Mike, with his parents, with the rest of MOVE, and hearing Mike talk about what he was trying to do and why he wanted to do it, it got me. It really did, because I knew all of what he experienced because I was there for so much of it. And to sort of look back at where he was at that point and how much he wanted to get his parents out and how hard of a process it was, and to be sitting there with them, it really got me. And then in the end, watching his parents watch themselves and watch them hug for the first time was it was incredible. And the one other thing, to Mike's point, there was somebody in Move who, she was probably just shy of rude to me for about 3 years, and she wasn't mean, she just was old. And it came from a place of Move had been misrepresented for so long, and she thought that, it was just a bunch of talk. Where I said I was going to be objective, I said I was going to look at things in a fair way, and it wasn't going to be some hatchet job, but words are cheap. And so for 3 years, it was, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, whatever you say. And then she did a complete 180 afterward. A complete 180. And even though we're still in COVID, she gave me a hug after. And it was just, for her, I told her that it would be a warts and all story on both sides. It would be an accurate and honest depiction. And like Mike was saying, it was who they were. And my whole thing was that, look, you can hate Move. You could think they were dirty. You could think they were nasty. You could think they were bad people. In the end, none of that justifies what happened to them. And so for her to understand that I did what I said I was going to do, and for it to land with her and the rest of the Move, was something that was super special.
Yeah, you can't beat that reaction. This the case of Move, not just the 1970s version, but the 1980s events, have long been a lightning rod controversy in Philadelphia. Can you talk about the way that the story is perceived today in Philadelphia, and what do you think, this film might do to help shade opinion?
You want to go, Mike?
Sure. Yeah, in the 70s and 80s, with Move being very new to the psyche of people, we were, we looked like space people. We had dreadlocks. Dreadlocks were not common, right? We ate raw food. Raw food was not common. We talked about the environment and the protection of animals. These things were not common. So to see these things become not only common, but people are like professionals, and you got raw food bars all over the country. Outside the country, there's raw food restaurants, right? You can't watch a sporting event without seeing someone running around with dreadlocks flying around, So for people to see Move as being like, a group of people that did these things at a time when they were not popular and still do these things, and not because it's a fashion statement or not because it's new to us, but because this is things that we just believe in. The perception of people in Philadelphia now has greatly changed. I've had police officers that were even involved in dropping the bomb on our family in 1985. I've had those police officers call me on the phone and apologize and say that they would like to help if they can, and that now they see more than they did before. And so the stigma has begun to wane a lot, and the change has really I think it really started when my mom came home. I could really see a big change in people, because it wasn't like in 40 years a prisoner. What people can really see is that we're people too, and me personally, I've never fought a police officer, right? I'm just a guy that's trying to get his family out of prison. You know, so I think people could see the humanness in that, and I think that that is something that they can really respect and connect with.
I would agree with that entirely. I think that one of the things that happened in 1978 and which continued beyond that was that MOVE had been dehumanized in the media. And once you dehumanize a group of people, it makes it very easy to accept whatever happens to them because they deserve it. And I think that in the doc, and one of the things that I did was once we reach August 8th and there's the lead up to the first gunshots, I cut to an interview with Mike, which is incredibly intentional. And the reason is that it's not meant to be just this historical shootout. It's not meant to be a thriller. It's not meant to be just this thing. There are real people there. Mike was there in utero and his mom. Like he was there, there are people there, and it's not just a bunch of faceless people shooting at other faceless people. And so to understand, to remember, to feel that these are people. These are people with families and feelings and friends and all of it. And again, you can have your opinions about them, but you're having opinions about people. And so for me, that was the whole thing.
Well, thank you both for this film, for being here with us today and sharing your further insights. This film will be coming to HBO later this year. So please tell your friends, anyone watching, to look out for it. Thanks again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.